You've mentioned earlier on how important it is to have like a strong culture inside your team. So for the managers watching, what sort of advice would you have when it comes to the steps of building a successful programming culture within a company or an organization? What do you think a manager should focus on or should look at to kind of build out this culture? And what are the values that this culture should fundament on?
So I'm going to say a couple of things not to do.
Okay.
One of them is, and this is not so much not to do as not valued relative to culture. So I also talked to developers and now managers and asked them, what are the characteristics of the best? Think about across your career. Think about the best manager you've ever had, and what are the characteristics of that manager? And it will come up from time to time. One of the characteristics may come up. My manager was technical. My manager, had been a good programmer, but it never comes up that they're programming now. Their programming contribution is never a characteristic of what makes them a great manager. Their characteristic of being a great manager is not telling us what to do. It is enabling us. It is communication. It's collaboration. It's trust. It's respect. Do this exercise. Each of you are listening. Do this exercise yourself. Think through the best manager you've ever had and what the characteristics of that person were. And I think you'll find the same thing that I find from hundreds of people who come back to me with their answers. And so, what we're trying to, I think the first thing in establishing culture is looking at what our company's culture is. Almost all of our companies have stated mission and stated values. And so number one, what are those? And number two, and are we, paying attention to those? And number three is, are we living up to those? Or are we in fact doing something entirely different from those? The famous Enron debacle from what was it, 2 decades ago, maybe now. They had a wonderful set of values. It's just that they didn't follow any of them. So the first thing is, what are the stated values? And then the second thing is, so what do we need from a programming culture? Because that's not always the same thing. Values are often created by CEOs. CEOs are often former salespeople and former marketing people, not former engineers. And what we need is what engineers need. They need to be able to focus. And then it's very much a team sport. So I get salespeople sometimes who say, yeah, sales is a team sport. I'm not terribly convinced, because when the best salesperson gets sent to Hawaii to play golf with the CEO, that sounds like an individual sport, not a team sport to me. And furthermore, how many engineers do you know who'd like to go to Hawaii with the CEO to play golf? Not very many.
Yeah.
So we need to create a culture, even if we've got the best corporate culture. And I had a really great corporate culture in one company, but it was focused on, because it was focused on relentlessly delivering features to customers, which is a good thing. It was causing developers to stop sharing what they were doing and stop learning from each other. And so learning has to be a core value of our culture, because we've got to constantly be learning and sharing what we're learning with each other. And so this company also had teamwork and respect for each other as values. And so as managers, we need to leverage the values that align with the values we need in our programming cultures, and we need to really speak to the ones that are most important.
Hey, just let me touch up on the things you said, because they're super interesting. When it comes to deploying or making sure that all team members are aligned with culture within a remote team. is there a way to do this effectively? Is it just kind of making sure everybody's up to date and constantly communicating? I guess like if there's no real human interaction, it's difficult. It's more difficult to build a strong culture than it is with everyone at the same desk, for example, right?
It is. So, I think in an entirely remote world, which is what we're in right now.
Yeah.
I think there are some principles that Agile's introduced for distributed teams that are even more important now. One of those is forming cross-functional teams in each locale, and the idea was that you could have a team in Russia and a team in San Francisco and a team in New York and a team in India and a team in Singapore, but each of those teams had all of the characteristics, all of the capabilities, all of the skill sets that you could give them a feature and they could build it, and thus you reduce the cross-team communication, and you've got the really high bandwidth communication needs to happen, all happening within the team itself, as opposed to having all of the database developers in one locale, 12 hours away from all of the testers, all 12 hours away from now you've got really high bandwidth communication that needs to happen, and it can't because you've got no overlap in time zones.